Thanks, everyone. First official meeting of the Decentralized Autonomous Society. So,
give yourself a hand.
Kind of ironically, I guess the two of us are now affiliated with some of the larger organizations in the decentralized technology space, with Swarm and Texture.
What's it called? Bitcoin? No, Ethereum.
Yeah. So, but neither of us really were at the time we started this thing.
No.
So, you want to give some of the backstory?
Yeah, you were on the Ethereum Skype channel. I was like, this dude's an asshole. I hope I don't ever have to talk to this guy. And then he messaged me, and I was like, hey, let's start a blog, like Decentralized Autonomous Society, which is just basically like the idea that the blockchain isn't just about money. It's about a lot more than that. Through smart contracts, through these decentralized programming platforms such as Ethereum, we'll be able to ask and answer questions such as what is the role of government, what is money, how do these things operate, and how do they help us build the future, the present, and ultimately structure society. And so once I had that kind of insight, I realized that these really important questions and finding those answers is going to be something that also should be decentralized, because the need to have these really complex centralized structures that kind of dictate our world isn't going to be there anymore. And technically, upon the launch of these kinds of platforms, it will technically be possible on the day of launch to begin implementing these systems. Now, socially, politically, these are things that will take time, and that's a lot of the kind of groundwork, is creating the community structures, creating the economic structures, and just building it from the ground up and keeping the momentum and staying excited and coming up with ideas for what we want our future to be like.
So I'm going to start off by talking about autonomy, since I think that my background is actually philosophy. I did a fair bit of computer science, but I have advanced degrees in philosophy, particularly comparative philosophy, and a lot of that sort of drives what I do, and I think is really core to how we think about the idea of autonomy. So I'll just go into this right away. And I think, like all of us, we have this general thing where we kind of, this thing called life, right? We're all like experience. And sometimes we ask ourselves the question, like, what's going on? Like, why am I here? I'm in this kind of mess. There's this sort of longer, standing sort of existential problem. People asking themselves, what is the meaning of life? And kind of seeking to come at some of those questions. And that's something that, like, there's a lot of discourse that happens when we really go into the fundamentals of when we really start asking those types of questions, that a lot of times there's no easy answers to them. So, and we end up in this sort of cascading list of questions about our existence as individuals, the various components that make up that existence, the bridge between the sort of world of ideas and motivation, and what some people call spirit, and then the kind of physical, mundane reality, and how those two mix together, and what is the purpose of it all. So this is a question that has been raised in many different traditions. One of them is the Zen tradition, and it's depicted in one of the most sort of traditional canonical versions as this sort of series of pictures. It's called ox herding pictures, in which someone wakes up to the reality that there's something else that maybe I'm missing in my life, that and there's just something not right. There's sort of this like digging question in the back of your mind that maybe there's something more to life than what I'm experiencing, and you start to go on the search. And this is the very beginning of the search that's depicted here. And what you find along this search, if you really go out, is you find that there's actually this sort of battle for your mind that's going on. This is from this anime series, Rurouni Kenshin, and it depicts. I'm sorry, I'm saturated with my own anime background, so just bear with it. But there's this constant battle between the programming that people, society, and other things like that are kind of putting on you and saying, like, here are the things that you should think, And very often that is motivated by a sort of brutal kind of power dynamic, in the sense that people are trying to get you to think something in order to act in a way that they want you to act. And that happens at so many different levels and so many different ways. It may not be the only motivation for why things are set up, educational systems and other things are set up the way that they are, but it's a major component. And in fact, in the history of philosophy in the past, 300 years, if you want to look at it that way, there's been really interesting shift of the idea of philosophy as something that is seeking truth, that is seeking some kind of metaphysical grounding to reality, from something that is essentially a justification for whatever the hell it is that we want to do. And there's this sort of power dynamic, say power justifies itself, and really if we just get enough power, we can force anyone to think about things however we want them to think about it. And those are constantly sort of, as you can tell from that articulation, they're very different ways of approaching reality or approaching the world. And one of them is, we need to go to a deeper level, and the other one is, let's just get whatever we can right now. And so when we come to that kind of like deeper realization, we realize, there are things like ethics or things that are maybe worth fighting for in the context. And that's something that is sort of the realization, even there in that kind of Zen story, is maybe there's something out there that's actually worth, leaving to this sort of hamster wheel that I'm stuck in, and actually putting some energy into fighting for. And that's sort of like your personal sort of liberation, but it may actually involve the liberation of a lot of people around you when you release yourself from the programming that other people have forced upon you. Which again is a kind of dangerous thing, and you see some popular depictions of this, and it's a very real thing in the sense that there are always people who are there trying to get you to think something that is not really in your best interest. And in fact, they want you to think about it so that you perform some desired action that maybe gives them more money or gives them more power over you or gives you something like that. And you may end up not very fulfilled at the end of that. You may have more points in the digital game that they're creating for you, right? You have more Candy Crush dollars or something like that. But you're not actually more satisfied as a human being. So there's something kind of missing. And then, when you really get behind that, you actually find potentially a greater degree of fulfillment. And this is actually kind of in the Taoist circles, of which I also, kind of have studied. It's sort of when you go to the dark side. It's like when you release from the context of things, like here's, the value system that other people are trying to force upon me, and say, what happens when I let it all go? And there's a couple different things that happen. One is that, and this is really interesting in the context of what we're discovering in the past 50 years about the structure of the human brain and all these other things, but there are actually these patterns that find themselves in nature that are reflected in our own sort of cognitive structure that we become more deeply attached to. I think is very, very relevant in the context of what's happening with decentralized technology today. In some traditions, we also have this kind of sense of connecting as individuals in our human bodies, becoming attentive to things that we might have missed otherwise, and even, the sort of greater degree of connectedness to things that we would otherwise miss. And at the ultimate end stage of that, and I'm kind of happy to end here with the sort of, what is the swarm logo, which represents a lot more than just ooh, it's a circle, that's cool. But, to say, and this is the sort of ending point as well in this kind of Buddhist system, saying we have this complete break where the sense of individual self, the sense of things sort of drops away for a second, and then the kind of context that I have in reapproaching is actually a fully conscious state. So, and we're talking about autonomy, it really means a lot more than I have the right to vote, right? Because you may have the right to vote, but you may not have the right to choose what you're voting on. So, okay, it's maybe not as useful as you initially thought or you were led to believe or whatever else it is. So there's a lot of things in which you're being given a sort of right, but you don't have the conscious willpower or decision to really engage at that level. And I think that's really ultimately what I'm most excited about here is a rising up the level of sort of, and this is sometimes the Trump tradition called, enlightenment or awakening or other things like that, but raising up that degree so that people are really autonomous, that they really have that ability as individuals to choose their own political structures, how they choose to live. There's been a lot of sort of growth, I think, in the past while about sort of sexual freedom or just different things in which you have the ability to decide for yourself what is the appropriate course of action instead of something that is just the result of someone else's programming. And with that, I think it's interesting to lead into this sort of second wave when we're talking about kind of technologies that serve as enablers for this. So, there's this broader idea, and this is why I said it's grounded in kind of philosophy, so to speak, but of something that is human autonomy, and then there are things that can bring us to a greater degree that are newly available, and that, potentially, and this is where it gets really exciting as well, is that it has a kind of collective element to it. So my autonomy is actually protected when I have access to resources that are helping me protect my own autonomy and increase my own autonomy. And that, to a degree, is a product, potentially, of a society that is functioning well. So without further ado, texture.
Yo. I don't have any slides, do I? Because I had too many words on my slides.
You do have all your slides.
Oh, you got all my slides? Cool. Hey guys, thanks for coming. So, to provide a little bit of context for what's happening here, because maybe it's not obvious, because Decentralized Autonomous Society is not an obvious thing. We don't really have a big description. It's really awesome that you all came out. I think we're living in a very important time. We have a lot of opportunities to create something really special. Maybe in the context of Decentralized Autonomous Society, you may be asking why it starts with a philosophical discussion. And I think the answer is very simple. When you build a new world, which is what we have the opportunity to do, you have to question the fundamental assumptions of the world that you already live in. Because if you don't, you're going to re-implement the same world over again. So how do we do that? How do we start to think about things in different ways? I don't know. I'm not here to give you answers. What we want to do is provide a space to ask those questions and for us all to solve those problems together, because the nature of decentralization is not merely a technical one, and it's not just about power structures. It's not just about economic power structures. It's about the structures that exist socially and the structures that exist inside of your mind and in all of our minds. Very, very, very basic assumptions such as, why do you wear t-shirts or something? I don't know. Just because other people do. Why do you go to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week? Just because you do. You don't have to. You could just wake up tomorrow and we could all decide. Like, some of us probably have started companies, and we wake up every morning and we go, we do this thing for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for no apparent reason other than we just don't question them. So if we're going to question the philosophy of the old world, we also have to question the philosophy of the new world. So why are we doing decentralization? Why is this cool to us? Decentralization of power. It increases individual autonomy and freedom. It reduces the systemic abuses. And, cryptocurrency has saved us all, obviously, right? So, yeah, thank you, Bitcoin. Actually, it's really not very good at doing what we want it to, because, Roger Ver has like $100 million or whatever. That's power. That's the centralization of power, right? So the fundamental assumptions that we make about what we're doing and the implications to the world, they're false. And we wake up every day and we get super stoked about this thing without questioning our fundamental assumptions about the world we're building. So we're just re-implementing the same shitty world again. Why? So I don't know what these slides actually say. So here's the thing. So this is like the power of getting excited about something and creating something and expecting it's just going to go one way. So Doug Engelbart, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he basically invented like everything to do with computing. If you've never seen the mother of all demos, it's like 1967, black and white. He does word processing. He video chats like from miles away. He invented the mouse. They have a keyboard in 1967. Anything Google does now, they basically had that. And the reason that he invented it and he thought it was going to be cool was because he thought that
people could use it to share scientific knowledge. I don't know if you know how the science profession works today, but the internet's still not really helping us do that. Like, still very closed, it's very insular. Like, we do not have an openness there. So you can create something for a reason, but if you don't have control over the implementation, people will just take it and continue things the way that they are. So we can't assume because we're creating systems and because we have this ideological structure in our mind and we assume that people are going to implement it in this way, that they will, because they're not going to. Technologies are just tools. They're value neutral, they guarantee nothing. I could give you a knife and you could use it to cut food, defend your family, or you could use it to murder a bunch of people. And that's the nature of technology, is that we create something and it's literally a double-edged sword basically every time. And it's how we, in the beginning, kind of determine the velocity through our thinking. It's very important because the trajectory is going to determine where we inevitably land. And it's very important with something with such broad sweeping implications as distributing power to everybody. What was that last slide? That seemed cool. Yeah, so we're only going to get the future that we build and nurture. That's it. If you get up every day and you go to work and you have a job and you don't question the assumptions of your life, 40 years from now you're going to have the same thing happening. And so in order to change, you have to question fundamental assumptions continuously, always. And the reason that we come to times in history when we need massive popular revolution is because we haven't been questioning our assumptions systemically throughout time. So we need to build systems that do that as well. So the value of community, right? So one of the arguments I want to make for you is that we are not restricted by them over there. It's not a government, it's not a conspiracy that holds us down. Like, why do we all get up and go to our jobs and have to make money and like go to our house, right? Like, that seems really inefficient. We make all this money, and then we have these kind of feelings about what we need to own and how we need to live, and then we waste a bunch of money paying it to somebody else. And then that undermines our ability to kind of come together as communities to cooperate. And no one's forcing us to do that. These are the fundamental assumptions not being questioned. We're not enslaved by somebody forcing us into a prison. We're just enslaved by not questioning fundamental assumptions about how we live, coming together, and then creating new structures that allow us to live a different way. That's on us. So you've got economic support, social support, community space, inspiration from communities. And that's why we want to bring people here today. Right now I'm standing in front of you and talking at you, but only to provide context for what future discussions we hope that you're having with us and to us, and hopefully you'll stand here with some of the amazing ideas that you come up with for solutions to these problems over the coming years. Yeah, so like, I don't know, maybe this is just my life, but like, I don't know my neighbors. Do you guys know your neighbors? Is that weird? Seems a little weird.
Not really.
Seems weird to be right next to people all the time and like.
It's weird,
Yeah, you're like next to people all the time. You could spend 30 years living next to somebody and never really know them. That seems weird. And why? Because we're not questioning fundamental assumptions. We're just told that we should be scared, so we're scared of them, and we kind of build our own little worlds that kind of suck, and it's weird. But we could just change tomorrow. But we're not going to. So we got to figure out a strategy to get ourselves to change. But we have a lot of things. Social capital, social bonds. Let's go through this. Let's just get past me talking. So some of the things that are really important with communities. So like if we create a community space, and we do a lot of really great things, and like let's say we all come together, we create a community space, some of us make billions of dollars. There's not really a bidirectional ownership model there. We're losing a lot of the economic benefits long term. So you have venture capitalists who take risk that's distributed, then they centralize rewards. You have people who do incubators, so they take 20-somethings, they give them a little bit of money, and then they decentralize the risk, and then they centralize the reward, right? It's a really, really basic model, which we could leverage in communities now, using ownership models from cryptocurrency. So we could build a community, distribute ownership to each other, decentralize the risk, and then also decentralize the rewards. So if we as a community invested in the next Google, invested in the next Dropbox, and then they go on to make billions of dollars, we could reinvest that into the community, continue the ideology of economic-based social spaces, and take basically this model that has been started by VC and incubators, and use it to leverage our own community building. So, so whatever, that's the same thing. Community incubators. So basically, we get the future we imagine. Like, we get the future that we create. We get the future that we build together, and we have the technology now, finally. So, I don't know. That's pretty much it. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we want to set things, in a sense, like, okay, we have this idea of, broadly speaking, what are the goals that we're trying to do for individuals, and now we have this new sort of interesting decentralized technology, and then really the society that we build, the community that we build, is the one that we imagine together. It's not like a, one person thing. It's saying, how do we really do that, and what are the kind of core principles there? And not only that, but how do we have something that potentially is something that can scale beyond, just a couple people with a vision, but really create that kind of, momentum and impact that, goes into the rest of society. So I think that's where we wanted to leave things, broadly speaking. We wanted to give a couple other people a chance, like Paige, I don't know if you want to come up and say some things about the stuff that you're working on.
Should we give her like a cool? Which picture do you want? Like the flame one, or?
Yeah, flame.
Are you with Ethereum?
Yeah, my name's Anthony D'Onofrio. I'm the Global Director of Community Engagement for Ethereum.
By the way, we have a bunch of kind of extra seating
Yeah.
on this side, so if anyone wants to shift over or come in, how's it do?
I'll wait until
Go.
you
Go.
guys
Move.
wanna- Yeah.
Potentially people can sit on that as well, I don't know.
So, all right. I don't have like a speech or slides prepared or anything, but I'm mostly just generally interested in the topics that are being brought about with this meetup, and just a little bit of background. I'm Paige. I work for a company called Maidsafe, which is not blockchain technology, but it is distributed technology. And essentially, we're working towards building a new internet protocol that removes the centralization of servers and the vulnerabilities that those bring. And the technology itself has been around been in development for 6-7 years. And throughout that time, we've been able to kind of slowly develop this community around just the general excitement of what's going on, and in so much that we don't even run our community forum. It's owned by other people, and they set it up and everything like that. And we're generally of the mindset that these distributed technologies that are replacing the systems, the kind of legacy systems that we have today, a really good model, kind of what has been touched on by Joel and Texture, is kind of the emergent properties through nature, and what you, just by observing nature, and what you can kind of learn from watching that the systems evolve with themselves. So, particularly with the Maidsafe technology, we don't have this kind of blockchain where every node is doing the exact same process. They're working towards the exact same thing. It kind of works more like an ant colony, in that individual nodes are playing specific roles, but they can adapt and switch between these roles if they need to. And personally, I think that this kind of system is what is going to empower individuals to sort of be able to act in this new world, as opposed to what I think blockchain technology is really great for, which is accountability, in that it's a global public ledger, and that we should be embracing it in that way. So insofar as like thinking about going forward and thinking about the technology that we're bringing about, it's really important to think about what this technology is and what we want to bring along and what we don't want to bring along, and constantly be questioning what we're developing. So I guess I could like ask questions, or if anyone wants to ask questions, or
I feel like now might be a good time to like for everyone just to kind of come in like a circle, and then we'll kind of make this more of a conversation for
Yeah.
the rest of it. I don't know if
Yeah.
we want to bring some chairs over here for whatever extra ones, but we can kind of do that.
It's fairly hard to get up and give a talk. I get nervous as hell. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know nothing. I know nothing.
spread out.
It's hard.
Sure, yeah.
But you know a couple things, but yeah.
Vitalik, did you have something you'd like to say as well?
V.
I would like
What's up,
to,
buddy?
yeah, Vitalik should come up here and say something.
Vitalik, inspire us.
School us.
I really don't.
There we go.
I have a question for you all.
Yeah.
So, when you think about blockchain technology versus other sorts of distributed data sets, is there something about blockchain technology that really
It's not gonna work.
let's turn it off.
Just turn it.
That really
Is it bright
supports-
to you?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It just reflects back at us, yeah.
Is there something about blockchain technology that's like some fundamental capability that really supports distributed autonomous organizations? I mean, because it seems like you could do everything without it. It's like, okay, it's a database or something, I mean, there's some special characteristics of it though that everybody here thinks.
Yeah, so the special characteristic of a blockchain that you can have the distributed blockchain where you can run software on it is actually the interesting part, because you can do things that exist outside that wouldn't necessarily be legal. And I don't mean you can do illegal things, but you can just have software that runs in the blockchain that no one can stop. So Vitalik, you probably have some insights
To
into
be fair, that kind of applies to Bitcoin as well, and even more so than Bitcoin, because you get 51% attack a BitTorrent network. Though you can 51% attack Tor, and it's probably even vulnerable to like 30%. I haven't even caught up on the way to numbers. But like,
Ethereum's not supposed to be Hawking problem compliant, right?
well, it's quasi-Turing complete. You set the limit on computational steps yourself, but I think that I think that the introduction of the blockchain has really reinvigorated the space, the whole decentralization space so much for several reasons. So one of them is the fact that it basically allows you to add an economic layer into a lot of these systems, and the reason why economic layers are important is because having economic incentives basically is the way that you can simultaneously have a protocol that anyone can participate in, and at the same time have a protocol that people can trust to some degree. So, like, so as an example, with something like BitTorrent is one example. It's one specific application for files. I'm just trying to come up with something specific. But I mean, in general, if you look at something like, so we have Bitcoin for cryptocurrency, we have Namecoin for domain names, we have smart contracts, and we have all of these other applications. And I mean, the one big ingredient that they do have is that they usually have some kind of currency mechanism inside of them. So you can represent things that have value, and that's basic. And before that, people were doing decentralized systems. Before that, there were like designs for distributed consensus networks all the way back since the 1990s. And they were able to do decentralized applications and so forth. But the key thing that blockchains have is that they're decentralized networks that anyone can participate in. So they don't require you to. They don't require any dependencies on any specific organizations at all, and that makes them a lot more flexible. It also makes them a lot easier to bootstrap initially. So, like, a blockchain is really something that you can start up and you just expect people to start mining it or start stake voting on it, and it's not the sort of system where you need to like wait for some company to start offering the service, and that's probably hugely important in a lot of respects. So it's like a low infrastructure decentralized computer that you can trust and that doesn't require any kind of social capital.
I think there's one thing that's really unique about it that wasn't mentioned yet, and I agree with everything Doc said. But it's also the fact that besides the fact that it's resilient, so nobody can tell you to stop doing it and shut it down because it's so resilient. But it's also transparent, so it's not that it's trustless. It's more that you can all see what's going on. And it's much better to have that than to have something that's beyond your even understanding, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree that blockchain technology is the biggest benefit comes from its accountability, its ability to provide accountability for organizations and things like that. And I guess I have a question for Vitalik in terms of what you're talking about with blockchain technology versus BitTorrent. Is it because does BitTorrent not apply to that description because it's a company? Like if someone were to make a DHT thing that was not owned by...
No, that still doesn't call, like, I do call BitTorrent basically decentralized. I don't think the fact that there's a company behind it matters all that much. It's more the fact that it is a network that anyone can participate in. It doesn't require any specific institutions in order to exist. Like there are torrent networks. Like when I use BitTorrent in general, people refer to torrent networks in general, and a lot of them do manage to exist without any dependencies at all. And precisely because of that, I'd say BitTorrent has been so incredibly successful. But the thing is that BitTorrent, it works for a specific class of applications. It works when you want to distribute stuff.
Yeah,
yes.
Could I get you to move up in front so we can get you on camera? You're behind a pillar. And I can hear the people on the internet screaming at you from there.
So with BitTorrent, with blockchains, so with BitTorrent, the idea is that you distribute a file and the file is out there. But with blockchains, you have these databases, and these databases can update themselves according to whatever rules you want. So it's kind of is like the invention of a personal computer in some sense, that you have something that before that we had devices that used electricity for a few specific things, and for those specific things they did very, very well. We had radios, and radios did very, very well. So BitTorrent you can think of as being like a radio. Here with blockchains, we have computers, and on computers you can run just about whatever you want. So, and I think that's one thing, just the fact that it sort of expands the set of applications that you can make from just a few things to just about everything. Turing completeness means you can do just about everything. And the other thing is, once again, this idea that you can use blockchains to store and manage ownership of things that have value is So just to sort of finish the thought that I started making earlier, so the reason why the economic layer is important is because it gives an incentive for entities to participate in the system, and to participate in the system right from the start. So, as one example, if you look at something like Esperanto, it's a language. So that's this Polish linguist invented back in the 1880s, and the idea is that
You're
it's
familiar with Poland, right?
Yeah, so Poland
He's Polish.
right. So Poland is like this country that's based in Europe. So Europe, I believe, is somewhere between the UK and Asia, because the UK is part of Europe. So yeah, so it's one of the biggest countries, and another good country is Africa.
Yeah.
Okay, so so the Esperanto, it's a language that's meant to be very easy to learn. Doesn't have any of these stupid irregular verbs or whatever that make a normal languages hard. And the idea is it would be this language that everyone could learn, and all of humanity could, even if they could continue speaking their own language, they would start speaking Esperanto as well, and everyone would be able to talk to each other. People in France would realize that people in Germany aren't all that crazy. People in Germany would realize that people in France aren't all that crazy, and World War I might never have happened. So, well, the big problem that a lot of these things have is this coordination problem, which is that even if Esperanto is a technically superior language, if no one else is using Esperanto, then you're not going to learn it because you have no one to talk to. So, So Bitcoin actually managed to overcome the coordination problem very nicely, I think. BitTorrent also did, but that's just because the ability to share files is just such a damn good application. But here, the reason why the way that Bitcoin overcame the coordination problem is that we say, okay, here are these tokens, and guess what? If Bitcoin gets popular, these tokens are going to be more valuable, and so there's this incentive for people to start to join in the system even at the very beginning as well, and not just when it's already in later stages and people are all here and just about everyone's excited about it. So I think that's probably another factor, this ability of these networks to bootstrap themselves, to create complete ecosystems, even starting from very, very, very small sizes. And the thing is that in order for any kind of movements to succeed, it has to succeed on a small scale first. So,
Good question.
Oh, I was going to ask. Oh, sorry. Isn't Maidsafe kind of moving away from the blockchain model?
Yeah, we don't do blockchain anymore.
So could you talk kind of just a little bit about how the distributed network, but maybe what use cases you see and how it's different than, say, an Ethereum like blockchain?
Without going too deep, it's just based on these ideas of kind of nodes managing each other rather than every node doing the same thing like with the blockchain. So when you want to send someone a safe coin, for example, you get permission from the nodes that are managing you, and therefore that's a handful of nodes that are you can't really determine what nodes those are, so it makes it anonymous. Your transaction is not being published to any ledger, and it treats that same mechanism is how it treats data as well. So all data is private, and kind of how it's distributed into the network.
It's kind of more of an open communication platform than like a centralized blockchain that we all agree on one thing.
So it has a consensus mechanism like blockchain does. Blockchain, the fact that it's a global public ledger is its consensus. All of the nodes are telling each other everything. This blockchain is what everyone agrees to. With Maidsafe, it's more of kind of a local, hyper-local agreement between a handful of nodes, which have specific personas, roles that they're playing within the network. Whether it be a data manager, a transaction manager. But I don't. That's kind of the comparison to blockchain. But I don't want to talk about it too much.
It's decentralized but not distributed. Yeah.
Just about everyone has their own meaning for the words
Yeah.
decentralized and distributed.
Let's all be just decentralized.
There's that one really good graphic that we can all refer back to.
Well, definition is just decentralized and distributed.
Interesting for everyone. Because you are all just as important as we are, it would be really nice if everybody could kind of introduce yourselves. I'm not drunk, I promise. Maybe we can start with did we already introduce ourselves?
I think we can reintroduce ourselves
Yeah.
and say something, not just
24/7, bro.
like why are you here? Well, why does this topic like interest you? What is it you feel like you're bringing
Alright.
to the
Do you want me
table
to go
here?
first?
Yeah,
I'm
you.
Vitalik Buterin.
I am the
Thank you
inventor
all
of
for coming here.
Ethereum.
I'm
I
the-
live in Toronto. I live in Canada. There's good caribou hunting up there.
Yeah,
So tell me more about this Ethereum scam. Is it like Bitcoin?
so the thing about the Ethereum scam, and I don't like to call it a scam.
On the blockchain.
Because if you call something a scam, then people don't buy into it as readily. So I like to call it an opportunity.
First, let's get consensus that you're Vitalik and the
I'm considering a different consensus algorithm.
Okay, so raise your hand if you think I'm Vitalik. Okay, raise your hand if you think I'm not Vitalik. Some of you guys are not sure.
Oh, I thought you said you were Italian. Or what do we
No,
get?
I am Italian.
We are Italian.
What do you get for voting? I don't know.
We are all Vitalik.
My name's Anthony D'Onofrio. I am.
You are Italian.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah.
You're from the Amalfi Coast. You're like, what? What are we talking about?
Yes.
You don't like Alfa Romeos.
No.
That's a crap.
What brings you here?
What brings me here?
What brands do you like?
What brings me here is that about a year ago I started having visions of the future, and I told somebody about it, and they had happened to get his white paper that day. So I read the white paper, and I said, "Yeah, this seems cool. I need to meet this Vitalik guy." So we met on Skype, and that's been that. And then I met you after coming to you with the idea for the Decentralized Autonomous Society, but it was Distributed Autonomous Society because we hadn't really locked it down. We decided on that. But now I basically believe that we need to really focus on local community development and figuring out ways to integrate value and within these technologies to kind of grow. So this is kind of the first attempt of that, of really bringing everybody together face to face, sitting next to each other as more or less equals to like come up with ideas and chat and shoot the shit on a way that's pretty neat. I don't know.
Yeah, my name is Joel Dietz. I was interesting for me because I was working in a community-based startup or kind of organization before, and I saw this huge need for things that engaged and really across a wide spectrum of people and really like kind of multi-stakeholder cooperatives and things like that. I thought that was a really interesting idea. And when I first read about sort of smart contracts, and I think it was the Ethereum white paper again, that was really like the light bulb came on in my head. And I said, wow, there's really this awesome potential application of this type of technology that can really resolve a lot of the problems that I see in the current way that the infrastructure is.
Sure.
So, and that was kind of what later evolved with, was basically sort of the immediate idea of kind of here's the broader
He's the man.
perspective,
I mean, he's the man.
and then that later turned into this thing Swarm that basically has the same goal. So.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm Paige Peterson. We're talking about why we're here?
Yeah, why you're
Why is this topic?
So I guess I've always been interested in liberating technology and liberation in general, and technology is probably the best way to get there. I got really excited about Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these things, and it's definitely opened up my mind to think about these larger concepts, and it also opened up my mind to kind of think about the potential issues that these systems could bring, and in terms of thinking about what we're building and really planning it out and realizing what kind of society what we're evolving into and what we need to leave behind and what we shouldn't invent. So I guess I'm a little bit of the devil's advocate in some of these discussions about technology being the ultimate answer, and I don't know, just the term omni blockchain comes to mind, which kind of creeps me out a little, right? Yeah. So, but I'm interested in both sides, and I want both sides of the discussion to be brought up.
Can I just point out before we go with the public people, this is being live streamed, so don't say anything you don't want the internet to hear.
I probably have said lots of things I shouldn't have said. Huh?
You put yourself out there.
I was going to go baggy.
Keep saying things, Vitalik. It's okay.
I'm Vitalik Buterin here.
You know, my name's Tom Charts. I work in business development with mainly cutting-edge alternative renewable energy startups.
And you're from Poland, right?
Pretty much. But anyway, I was looking for something that can empower the system at the bottom, because there's virtually one family that has more money than half the population. So it's like, and I personally believe that the Bill of Rights and the Constitution is dead, and we're just on the verge of a totalitarian state. And I'm trying to find some way to empower the financial system, because like a lot of these technologies I'm working on are decentralized. And there's an island in the Dutch Antilles that it's 100% renewable energy right now. And I see a lot of opportunity in other parts of the world, but here the powers that be really want to keep these technologies down. And so when I observed what you're doing with Swarm or these other things, I just thought it's a way to break through some of this roadblock, And I'm just trying to really understand where you're going. But, the technologies I work with, they've raised several $1 million and, but they're struggling, but the technology is fully proven and, you could revolutionize aspects of the world.
Nice.
And, I'm trying to find other empowered states that empower the disenfranchised,
Cool.
I'm Zachary Larson. I'm very interested in decentralized or distributed autonomous infrastructures. Yeah. And there's a lot to say on that.
There are 25 more of you.
Yeah, that's right. So, a few things that I'll throw out, I guess, is that looking at everything from a fundamental position is really important when we're going about all of this, asking ourselves the question of how can we take an integral approach of understanding the fundamentals and also incorporating cultural aspects of that and being sensitive to cultural elements and really asking ourselves fundamentally what is the best ecologically and viewing ourselves as interconnected, that we are truly planetary consciousness and we are manifestations of that consciousness. And I believe that if we are to walk our lives with our eyes open to that sacredness of connection to each other and to our environment, and better understand and communicate those fundamental experiences, that we're going in a good direction.
Cool.
See that here.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Martin. I'm interested in smart contracts and programming. Go.
This is Jim. He likes sheep.
Yeah, my name is James Douglas Robinson. I've lived in New Zealand for like the past 3 years. I love Canada. I don't know the mayor of Toronto, though, But evidently, I would want to party with him. I'd be up and down. That's the original Four Seasons in Toronto, actually. It's not like the one in East Palo Alto. So, what? I fully believe in distributed things. I've been a student of maths for my whole life. I went to Princeton. I lived at Princeton for like 7 years, and every bloody thing, MIT, everything. Yeah, so there's something here. I support this movement or revolution or whatever it is. Like, Viva la France. I don't know what we're doing, but I totally support it. I get it, and yeah. So that's me.
Hi, I'm JC. I'm learning Ethereum. That's it.
Well, that's too short.
I think that we can make this dream a reality. And
dude, you're living in Sioux, California. You're like, dude. All right.
I feel like we need to be the example that the rest of the world can follow, and that we should start another DAS, the distributed ashram system.
Like 3.11 or 3.2 or DOS, like
have,
Apple DOS?
I think
or?
we should have an egalitarian system that allows
what are we
us
talking about?
to all have equal share and equal vote.
In the ashram.
In the whole world.
Nice.
And we should be getting around the tea table and sharing tea with each other and sharing everything.
If you like tea, you need to go find that guy after everybody's introduced himself, because he's got lots of tea.
Right on, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Joseph. I like platforms like Ethereum and programming.
Nice.
Me.
It's all you.
Neil with Cheryl. Cheryl is a nonprofit, and we write about all the different ways people are decentralizing the economy. I'm interested in what's happening here and want to learn more. And we're also writing about it, so check it out at cheryl.net.
Awesome.
Thanks.
I'm Ile Bazanis. I've been tracking Bitcoin. I've been frustrated because I feel like no one actually talks about what you can do with the blockchain. And it wasn't until I read the Ethereum white paper that I felt like I finally came across something that connected all those thoughts I had, which is what led me to DACs. And why it interests me is because I want to implement some of the ideas behind DACs for one of my companies. So I've got two companies. One's called Startup House, which is a building in San Francisco. The other one's called Startup Bus, which is like a global community. And I want to implement a combination of liquid democracy or delegated democracy and secure multi-party computation, which I came across as a defining characteristic of DACs, as a system to basically govern the organization starting from by the end of this year.
Nice.
I'm Peter. I'm mostly here because I'm a huge fan of Ethereum and just curious to see what comes out of this.
Awesome.
In the back.
Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I'm Marianne Vogel. Hello, everybody. And I kind of live here, so I'm around anyways.
You just hide in the back. Is that what you do?
But on the other side, I'm a marketing student, and I'm looking for a topic for my master thesis. And I always find communication and discussions like that very inspiring. And I don't know, I feel like this is super cool stuff we are talking about, but it would be interesting to find out how to make this stuff mass friendly. That not all the techie people are into that and excited about that, that I can explain that to my mother, for example, and she thinks that's cool and useful. So
Nice.
that would be interesting to wait for that.
How are we going to manage? It's not
Just
so...
Kelly here.
I'm
Yeah.
Kelly. I live here, behind the curtain.
Yay. Thanks for joining us, Kelly.
I think one sentence will be I create fun experience for family and capture them.
Nice. So just point at people like that.
Andy?
I'm Andy. Joel remembers me. I'm one of the Ethereum co-organizers in Silicon Valley. I like smart contracts, Ethereum. I gave a couple of talks, one on dominant insurance contracts, and another one on reputation on Ethereum. So I'm super interested in DAOs and decentralized organizations, and like a lot of us think that we're looking for sort of a trustless environment, but when you do business with other people, you really need to have reputation and identity in place so that you can trust the other person on the counterparty on the other end. So I'm working on a startup to see if we can do a good reputation system on Ethereum.
What's the name of the startup?
It's called Verlatis, but it's just
Verlatis?
It's just kicking off now.
It's just a working name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
My name is Jay Kwan, and I believe in the future there's going to be 1 million blockchains representing 1 million communities, and they're all going to be interoperating. But Bitcoin mining doesn't support that, so I set out to discover a solution that's as secure as Bitcoin, but doesn't require the mining. And I think I have a candidate. I call it Tendermint, and it's coming along very nicely. So testnet's about to launch.
Awesome. I'm Rich, and for fun, I write short stories in the robots versus kung fu genre. As it turns out, robots really, really care about distributed organizations. And they want
especially
me to learn.
rich robots.
They want me to learn more. So.
Cool. Thank you.
We should talk more afterwards. What's that?
We should talk.
He's
gonna be on the kung fu side though. Watch out. Make sure you have
My name's Simon. I'm a software developer, and I guess originally I've always been frustrated with a lot of things in society and government. So I've been interested in libertarianism and then cypherpunks and and then Bitcoin and Ethereum especially recently. So,
Cool.
I'm Katarina. I'm doing community engagement with Swarm, and I originally came into this arena because I too am interested in equalizing and access for people who are not parts of the system.
I'm Gavin. I guess I got into it because I think math and computer science are ways to actually find ways to do consensus, but also find fairness and fair distribution of things. And so I'm really excited to see these things happen. But I think it takes like-minded people to go ahead and build these movements and build these tools. But I do think math and computer science are kind of the future to sort of fixing these legacy systems that have been inadequate or unfair.
Good word. Thanks for sharing, Gavin. Really. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like that. That was awesome.
Hi, I'm Michaela, and I am a writer and education developer, and I'm just here to learn more about this space. I'm interested in Bitcoin and how it can, and the technology and how it can be applied to other areas. So.
Hi, I'm Joey. With these two guys, I work on a project called Augur, and we're building on top of Ethereum to build decentralized prediction markets, and those allow you to basically forecast anything.
What?
Oh, I'm Chris. Also,
I'm Jeremy. In addition to Augur, I also founded the College Cryptocurrency Network, and we kind of founded ourselves in the shape of Bitcoin, tried to be fully decentralized, and it's really worked. We went from 3 founding chapters to about 170 now on every habitable continent. So we know this can work on a very human level.
Nice. Awesome. We should also talk.
I'm Alonda. I like to code, and I'm interested in Bitcoin.
I'm you. I'm a friend of Zach. Actually, we met 2 days ago, and I thought, this guy is really fascinating. I should come and not knowing what is going on. So I didn't know any terms you said, decentralized or distributed or anything like that. So please, was it million? Yeah, please tell me in the lay terms like your grandmother.
I don't know. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Judy. I'm with Andy.
him to develop, so I can see where I can, contribute, I guess. But it's gonna be interesting for me too.
We all quit our day jobs. Do something important.
Yeah.
It's good to hear. We'll just put more bunk beds.
Ash. I'm Ash. I'm an internet swarm. I came here to learn more about Ethereum and decentralized technologies.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mel. I run Palo Alto's Bitcoin Meetup and a few other things.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I've been involved with Ethereum for about a year, and I'm now a co-organizer of the Silicon Valley Meetup group. And I am also another one working for the grandmas to bridge the gap between this community and the rest of the world, so that everybody understands how cool this is.
We work together a lot.
Yeah. And we should decentralize all things.
My name is Dan, and I have a startup that's very much built along the lines of these principles and where these things are headed, both company and products. And we want to take that further, so looking to get integrated into how that's evolving at large so we can integrate it more at large on our side.
Hi, I'm Tabrix. I've been following the Bitcoin space for a while, and I actually learned Ethereum through watching Ethercast because I thought it was really cool that, like learning about a smart contract that really blew my mind, and I thought it was really fascinating. Growing up, I read a lot of cyberpunk, and in cyberpunk fiction, the future is always depicted as something that's really bleak, human with no power, no authority. So, what Anthony said really resonates with me in terms of, we get the future that we build and nurture. So I think this is an area where the technology is here that we can really utilize it to build a better future for all of us.
Hi, I'm Stefan. I'm really interested in the consciousness source of what we are doing, the why we are doing things that get translated into relations, communities, and then technology that kind of the material translation that supports the work. So I'm very interested in that and how we can progress that and what are the lock points that are, because of course a lot of people have had a lot of ideas in the past and that failed. And so I'm interested in what are the success factors and how we set them in motion so that we can provide that sustainable and positive impact.
This is Vitalik. I'm Vitalik. I first found out about Ethereum introspectively in the
the revolution will not be televised.
Nobody has TVs, that's why. I'm interested in decentralized technology, cryptographic economic, and building cryptographic economic whatever systems that allow anyone to more easily participate, reduce barriers to entry, and so forth. Yeah.
Awesome. Is that everyone? Has everyone spoken?
I'm Ryan Taylor. I'm here to do the matching.
Ryan!
He's just the guy.
So yeah, so this is a very diverse group of people in this room, and I think it's really important that you all stay and talk and hang out and don't view this as a thing to stare at us, because I assume we'll have more of these and we'll...
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is something that we want to get out of this or do is allow the people to communicate about what it is that they're missing right now or they feel like would be helpful for them in the context of the work that they're doing. And so that these different types of projects can complement each other and that we can resolve the sort of collective problems that we share. And I'm pretty excited. For instance, like many of us are facing these legal issues or regulatory issues, wondering like, how are the regulators going to view particular types of innovation and this stuff, and are they going to say like this is in this particular category that existed before, or are they going to create a new category for it? All these things create a lot of uncertainty that affects everyone who's in the space. And so we've seen some kind of movement in that direction that I'm very excited about with what's happening, for instance, next week at Harvard and MIT, where we're having this big sort of workshop and all of these lawyers that are sort of dealing with these different types of things and including some entrepreneurs, are coming together to say, how not only how should, what regulations apply and what regulations should apply to these particular types of things, but how can we take these technologies and evolve them in such a way that that degree of regulation isn't even necessary. And I think that's like a really exciting opportunity that we all have together as well, to say, what are the ways in reputational systems, in my opinion, is a very large part of that. What is the way that we can build these systems so that we need less oversight from other people, but really have a greater degree of kind of positive energy exchange and economic growth that comes without those kind of other negative aspects. So,
yeah, exactly. I think in general there's a fundamental trade-off between systems that are very high, where you can very highly trust the outcome, and systems that have free entry. And in a lot of cases you have this sort of fundamental paradox that if you set up some kind of system where you make it very, very easy for people to join, then those people might not necessarily be perfectly scrupulous. They might not. They might. It's hard to know whether they're exactly the right match for what you need, whether it's in a job situation or whatever else. And a large portion of the benefit of things that we're building, I think, is actually advancing that frontier and trying to see how much can we actually increase the extent to which we can trust whatever kinds of institutions, systems, mechanisms we build, while at the same time keeping them open and keeping them inclusive.
Any final things that people would like to say?
I was just going to say, if you don't understand the regulatory framework, the best thing is to do as much documentation as possible. So, when you do trades, when you move stuff, when you're using the funds, keep that open inside your organization. And I'd like to see more platforms and startups that come along and help people facilitate that and do it automatically, because, when you do go to an attorney or something, the more information you can provide, the more clear picture you can get and get a result. And I think that's the problem with digital assets is do you count it at the price that you sold it at, or do you count it today's price, or this or that? And the audit trail becomes really messy. And so I'm excited about more automated ways for people to just track. If they're using it for real money, track the trail of money, track what's going on, so that when they have to get lawyers, they're not just screwed, because I think the situation with some people is they just don't have that information.
Actually, about a year ago, I wrote a Python script that lets you calculate exactly how much funds, in USD terms, a particular account received, even if the different transactions came at different times when the price was different.
Right.
And we could use that. I think I used that to estimate how much revenue charities got, even how much revenue Ethereum got from the sale, which was 18,390,000, the number it came out of that particular spread. So there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah. It's just tough to say.
Exactly.
What data do you keep? What data do you store?
Well, the thing with blockchains is you sometimes don't have a choice of what data you keep.
So, question for you. So, with regard to the evolution or deployment of Ethereum, so I heard tale that it was going to be till fourth quarter. So how are things going and what's going on? Just give us an update.
Ethereum 1.0.
Anything you want to say?
Ethereum 1.0.
I'll take it under advisement.
Ethereum 1.0 is scheduled to launch first quarter.
Okay, cool.
We're going.
Awesome. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So basically security audits are the main thing that's left, and the few final finishing touches on the Go client, and we'll also continue upgrading Mist. The fully fledged sort of promise of the Ethereum vision, so that includes things like light clients, so you could use Ethereum nicely on your phone and on those Internet of Things devices that IBM and Samsung starting to harp up about recently, and things. Adding on a couple of extra features, adding a proof of stake, adding the full sort of vision that we showed for Mist with with all the built-in sort of natural language specification system. So everything looks nice and pretty. A lot of that's probably going to come by Q4 this year. And 2016 is probably the year that Ethereum 2.0 is going to get developed.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thanks for that.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight that came out, and feel free to stick along as long as you like, and have more conversations or questions or whatever you happen to do. But,
Cool, thanks, Joel.